On page 222 in our textbook, we're going to create a crosstab query. What a crosstab query will allow us to do is to create column headers and row headers, and in the intersection between those headers we will have an aggregate function like a sum or an average, and in this particular case we're going to do sums. So on page 222 I'm going to start my crosstab query by clicking the Create tab. From the Create tab I'm going to click the Query Wizard. When the Query Wizard dialog box opens, I'm going to choose Crosstab Query Wizard and click OK. On this first screen in the Crosstab Query Wizard, I need to make a decision as to what will be the basis of my query. And I'm going to choose a query here, and I'm going to choose QRY, Customers and Invoices. This is simply because these are the directions in the book. When you're creating your own, you would need to make a decision. Where are the fields that I'm going to be using in my query? Where are they coming from? And I'll click Next. In this next step in the Query Wizard, I choose my row headers. So what is going to appear going down the page? In this case, I want to know by city. So I'll choose City and add it to selected fields. Now down below I see City as my row headers. I'll click Next. What do I want to appear as my column headers? And in my column headers I want to know whether or not the invoice has been paid. So select Invoice Paid, and now I see the Invoice Paid going across as my column headers. I'm going to click Next, and now what value do I want to show in the intersection? I want to know the invoice amount. Counting it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I want to know the sum. So by city I want to know the sum of those invoices that have been paid and the sum of those invoices that have not been paid. I'll click Next, and at this next screen I name my query. I'm going to call it QRY, Customers and Invoices Crosstab. So I'm deleting the underscore. I'll go in back of it, add the underscore and my initials, as this is how I've instructed my students to name their queries. I'll click Finish. My query will open. I'm going to resize my columns so I can see them a little better. And what I have here are the cities going down as row headers, and across the top I have the total of all the invoices. Then I have the invoices that have been paid and the invoices that have not been paid. Remember that a yes/no field is a Boolean field. -1 for yes and 0 for no. Now in order to make this make more sense, I'm going to go into my design view and I'm going to add a lookup function to my invoice paid column heading, because remember it's my column heading that I'm concerned about. So I'm going to come into my column heading, and moving over to page 225 in my textbook, I want to write a function that says if the invoice is paid, put a header of paid. If it's unpaid, put a header of unpaid. So I'll come in that field and I'm going to zoom. Oops, wrong one here. I'm going to zoom and I'm going to put in IIF. If the invoice is paid, so I have comma, put in paid. If it's not paid, put in unpaid. Remember, these are my column headers. That's why it's going in the column heading area. And I'll run it. You see now I have paid and unpaid. Some of you may be wondering, why do I have a blank in Grand Haven? Because I've created this query after I have completed the chapter. So as we move through the chapter we make some changes to the data. The query itself is correct, and it will be correct at the end of the chapter, not if I'm working through and I print it just at page 225.